Hey everybody. Oh, so we're on this precept, yeah, around consumption. Around consumption. How much do we need? Mm. One of the areas that's so rich in all these areas, our invitation is simply to bring more nuance to it, to bring just more attention. Again, this path really moves forward, and the Buddha was really clear about this through a sense of ehipassiko. Look more closely, look and feel uh, into your experience, and be guided by that. Be guided by that, do you know? And that will gradually trend in the direction of wellness, of less suffering, yeah. One of the places that becomes a huge drama in this regard for most all of us is the food drama, eating. Yeah, yeah. Um, and it's so complicated because it's in that space where we need it, but we also want it. But it's also very much attached to craving. And food is connected with so many things, right? It's connected with so many things. I appreciate that so much. I didn't used to appreciate it. There's this old saying, Susan and I, when we repeat old sayings, we'll go, where did that saying come from? Is that still useful? Is there a better one than that? Is that still relevant? But one of the ones that I've always felt was from the beginning was right on. It stands the test of time, is that we are what we eat. We are what we eat. And it became a bigger deal for me earlier in life, and for Susan as well, because we lost both of us lost our most important parent at an early age. My father at age 19, and that's what got me into the Dharma right away, by the way. And Susan lost her mom when Susan was 20 years old. And I remember, among other things, um, I was aware at that time that my father, well, he was eating like most Americans at that time, which is not well. Yeah? Lots of fried food. He smoked Camel cigarettes because that was the cigarette that doctors recommended most. And it's not that long ago that doctors recommended cigarettes. Yeah, 60 years maybe, 50, 60 years. Yeah. And I thought, and he didn't exercise, of course. And I thought, well, there's so much that's not in control in this, and I'm not in control of in this universe. But let me pay some attention to what I eat and to how I exercise, whether I exercise. And so it's become part of a life path for me to start to pay more attention to all that stuff. And I used to think, and then I thought, oh, and like in the 80s and the 90s and so forth, oh, the data is really coming in now. The data wasn't in, back in the 60s around food. Data wasn't in. The data's in. A lot of the data's in. And I thought, now everybody's going to change their relationship to food. Yeah. Like I'm doing that. And so everybody's going to do that now because the data's all in. You don't have to look far for it. You don't have to look far for it. And to my great surprise and disappointment in a certain way, I realized that friends, family members don't seem to be putting together, smart people don't seem to be putting together the data about food with either their addiction or their food patterns, and they continue to eat things that are clearly not good for them. And I think we all can relate to this to some extent. All of the issues around food, what it is, how it is, what it means, when food is love, when food is filling up anxiety, when food is just um, impulsive eating of all kinds, overeating. We all know about eating too much, which we know isn't so good for us. And to me, it feels like a more general extension of something that we talk about in other areas. Just like we don't talk nicely to ourselves all the time, right? I mean, we have to actually train ourselves to bring more kindness, to bring more compassion to ourselves. We still push and doubt ourselves. Similarly with our bodies, as Susan will remind us, is, we're kind of disembodied, and our relationship to our bodies is a mixed bag. And we're not always kind to our bodies, right? And one of the ways that we're not kind to our bodies often is with food. So even though we are what we eat, um, there's sometimes just not often not a real alignment with how much we eat and what we eat. I saw an article recently that said between now and Labor Day, just in the United States, 6 billion hot dogs will be consumed. Only about one of the worst things you can put in your body. 6 billion, that comes out to about 15 per person, even including children, per person in the whole United States, And yet, we know this, we have the highest rates of diabetes type 2, of heart disease, of cancer, all kinds of illnesses and problems that are certainly partly, and I would suggest largely, connected with food consumption and what we put in our bodies, And so much of this, and this is really the invitation this month, and I'm sure we'll be speaking about food more than once during this month, because it's one of the big areas of consumption for us, and something that we do every day is what are we up to here? What are we doing? Susan and I recently we've come to that we say, what how about if we see the body as a temple, in the same way that we will often see our home as a temple. Thanks to Susan, I've come to see that, I've come to appreciate that more. Just like I wouldn't want to, there's also this wonderful expression, oh, moderation in everything. And that is as a rationalization sometimes for eating something that we know is not good for us, right? Moderate. I can eat some poison, it's okay. And what's up with that? You see, we each have our own relationship, our own long, winding history with food. But it's really starting to take a closer look at, what am I putting in the temple? What am I putting in the temple? I wouldn't want to throw, if the house were a temple, I wouldn't want to say, okay, well, it's okay if I put a bunch of garbage in one room in the temple, or a pile of garbage here and a pile of garbage there. But this is what so often, and myself too, I did this for a while. It took a while. I realized the deep habits we have around food that aren't so good for us, But it's okay to put some garbage in the body, imagining that I can get away with it somehow. That part of the problem with eating something that really isn't healthy is it doesn't immediately send a signal of terrible distress. It just goes to work to fight off the damage that's being done. I often thought it would be great if there would be something like a smoke alarm signal that would go off when we put something really bad, especially if there are other people around. Maybe we would get it, but that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. But maybe if we begin to just slow down, it's always pausing. What am I doing? What am I doing? What am I eating? Is this something that is wholesome? Or is it not wholesome? Just like, is this line of thinking, this line of obsessive thinking, is it wholesome or not wholesome? What about this self-judgment? Is it wholesome or not wholesome? This sense of way I push myself, is that wholesome or not wholesome? It's really the same question when it comes to the body. Am I treating it with respect to consumption, you know? And is there, what would be the next step? It's pausing will give you the next step. It's not like of something formulaic here, right? It's just like if you slow down and take a closer look, you probably already know right now there are one or two things. It would be good if you didn't put so much of those in your body, and then there's just that inquiry. What's up with that? What do you do? I used to do this thing. With food, because we all have our addictions too to food. Yeah, we don't like that word, but it's true. And I used to like sugar. I don't do sugar now, but I used to do it. And this is what I would do. I would pause. I would go, hey, buddy, you're about to eat something that you know is not good for you, but you're not quite ready to stop it yet. Maybe one day you will be. There's an intention to not eat this at some point, but I'm not quite ready to do that. But that's okay. I'm not quite there yet. And then I would eat it, and I would enjoy it some, not quite as much, right? And gradually, I know I did that 100 times, and like 101st time, I just couldn't eat it anymore. That was my way. It was my way. I don't know what your way is. And maybe it is. Maybe you are one of those people who've taken more care already with respect to kind of what you put in and how much you put in. For most of us, it's a delicate and a live dance that we tend to not pay that much attention to, not a lot of attention. So it's just that, no judgment, as Susan will remind us so often, no judgment here. Ehipasako, looking more closely, come and see for yourself, taking a closer look. It's not about judgment. It's about what is it? How does it feel? How does it feel in the mind? Often it's how does it feel in the mind, although your body may be giving you signals too, along the way here. And what do you want to do about that? How do you want to, what step do you want to take there? What step are you ready to take there? A step of self-care. What is the next, in all of these areas, it's what is the next baby step of self-care that is going to move in the direction of less suffering. And we just including consumption in all forms, but the consumption of food as one of those places, because this body needs care. Yeah, yeah. And what's the next step of self-care? That's all. So we just offer that for your investigation, for your own inquiry around food. Yeah. Okay. So thank you.